please, Luke.
Steve Bishop.
Present.
Terry is out. Jay Dubroff.
Present.
George Hansen.
Here.
Crystal Harlan.
Here.
Mark Neslusen.
Here.
And Richard Peterson.
Here. Review and acceptance of minutes from July 7th, 2022.
Motion be accepted.
Second. All in favor? Chair's report. None. How do you like it? Code enforcement officer's report.
This month kind of flew by. Whole Oceans, I met with them last week. Boots should be on the ground on Monday, the 11th. A lot of
Right. Oh.
next Monday.
Oh.
Next week they should be on site. It will most likely be slower than we'd like, but it will be progress.
You don't say.
Yeah, I know, but so there's a large oil tank like they have over at the Weber tanks, but it's down by the river. It's a giant green one that's been cleaned and inspected by the state, and everything's good. So they're going to disassemble that and remove it. They're going to when AIM had the demo permit, they were required to remove everything down to the ground, and that was as far as they were required to go. So they're going to remove all the foundations and stuff that are in there on their site. And then there's some investigative stuff they've got to do with some lines and stuff that are in the ground. They want to make sure they can remove them before they, and then, excuse me, if they can, they're going to. And there's some stuff that's grown over the year, and they're going to clear that stuff out of there and whatnot. But they're not going to start the big, like 40-foot cut they call it, which is the 300,000 yards of material that needs to be removed, until fall, because they want to wait until they're actually ready to replace that hole with something, and they're not ready. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of answers other than that. They're still trying to firm up what they want to do on lot 3, which is the lot down by the wharf that they purchased. That hasn't gone through any permitting with us or anything like that yet. So when they do figure out what they want to do, it's going to have to come back to us for permitting, and then go to the state for permitting as well.
What did you say lot 3 was?
Lot 3, so the mill property was divided up. I got to tell you got to stop rocking. I know I like to rock too, but the noise on the TV.
I thought it was one of these joints, so I can't hear it.
So they divided the mill property into 4 lots. Lot 1 is the power plant, ironclad. Lot 4 is Maine Maritime Academy. And Lot 2 is what Whole Oceans originally bought, which is the largest chunk. And then Lot 3 was the remaining land that they bought after we'd already permitted Lot 2. It was kind of an afterthought. So they owned the pier down there where the barge sits. That's a DEP barge. They leased that access to that pier, but the pier belongs to Whole Oceans. And the warehouse there and all those piles of concrete behind the warehouse and stuff that you can see, especially from the Prospect side, that's all stuff that they own, and they can't touch any of that until they get permits from the DEP and stuff. They can't touch those piles of concrete and whatnot, is my understanding. So it's very fine. They've got to have a whole plan in place for erosion control and everything to keep that from ending up in the river. So yeah, and erosion control stuff is another thing they're going to be working on in the next month or two, all around the boundaries and stuff, getting ready so that when they are doing construction, they're all good. So The DEP is gonna start doing their, well, it's the third party actually that's doing it, a third party inspector. They're gonna be inspecting weekly starting next week. So things are moving, but like all of you, I'd love to see, and honestly, I think they would too, love to see stuff getting built and concrete poured and all that, but they've got to, it's a very exact science, and they've got to get things nailed down right before they are ready. So that's what I know about that. And I don't think there's anything else unless you have questions.
Okay. No questions. Thank you for that, Luke. Unfinished business. We have none. We'll classify our other discussions later.
That's all on our administrative business.
All right, new business. Bucksport Nutrition. Change of use to allow a restaurant to use at 119 Main Street.
So this is the building that Lewis and Malm Architecture's in, and Prim and something Treasure was there. Prim?
In Treasured Times.
Okay, that.
Is that on the riverside?
That's where my salon
No.
was.
Oh, okay.
So, this is something that I typically would just issue a permit for.
Yep.
Change of use type of thing. But the ordinance specifically states that all restaurants and taverns and food service stuff has to go through level 2 review. So even though they're really not, they're not building anything other than some counters and stuff inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just a few places down from Tozer's, and they serve food.
Correct, yep.
No, I'm not saying that they can't.
No, I know.
I'm just saying we have to review it.
I'm just-
So that's why it's on the agenda tonight for you guys to do a review, is because I don't have a choice. But
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
see as you go down through this level 2 review that 95% of it doesn't apply, but the ordinance says we need to do it, so we have to do it. And if you want to present a little about what your business is and what
Yeah,
you're doing.
absolutely. First, I'm Jacob Gray Mason. It's good to meet you guys all for the first time. Me and my wife own Ellsworth Nutrition in Ellsworth. We opened that about a year and a half ago. And essentially what we serve is, it's a healthy beverage and snack cafe type of thing. We serve protein shakes, iced coffee, iced tea, healthier alternative to standard coffee. We don't serve any hot food. We don't do any cooking or anything like that. We do serve snacks like cookies, brownies, stuff like that. We have a baker out of Bangor who gets it all ready for us, and we just sell it retail. Those aren't healthy per se, but they're healthier than your like normal standard cookie stuff is. But that's pretty much the gist of it.
They're delicious.
You a fan?
I am, and I've been begging her to bring on down to Bucksport.
Yeah,
so
we're
they
trying.
do a lot for the schools. They already bring multiple.
Yeah, we do a
Down,
lot of
they do.
deliveries for all the schools in Bucksport, and that's one of the silver linings for us is because right now we have to travel and we don't charge for delivery, so usually my wife will travel from Ellsworth down to the Bucksport schools to do the delivery, but with the Bucksport location, we're right next door, so that'll save time, money, energy.
And we already have people that want it. So
How long have you been in business in Ellsworth?
About a year and a half now,
Yeah.
right around. Yep, and it's done great. Yep.
Where are you located in Ellsworth?
So, you know where Goodwill is? Okay, so you got Goodwill, then you got this building plaza that has H&R Block in it. At the top floor is Lee's. On the other side of the street is Moody's Collision Center.
there's a crossroad.
Exactly, right, yeah. It's technically High Street, but it's pretty much this building. It's probably got like 5 or 6 different businesses in it. We're on the first floor, right in between Goodwill and Moody's Collision Center.
Any special needs for parking at all?
No. That was one of the things when we were scouting properties that we were keeping in mind, just that we had, enough places for a couple of cars. At our Ellsworth location, it's a steady thing all day. Usually we'll have 2-3 customers in at a time, but it's not a thing where people come in and hang out for long periods of time or anything like that. It's pretty much in and out.
Well,
so-
that's why I was thinking, are there any 15-minute signs there or anything?
There shouldn't be because I have my salon there.
I was
you
just,
can-
I
you
was just
can put-
asking because, again, if he needs the traffic moving,
Yeah.
I was wondering if that
I don't think
would
there
be
is.
something that would be good.
Yeah, because that's.
So
he's
you
gonna-
just want it because you can get all the stuff right here.
Well, I mean, it's
Now I
convenient for me,
understand.
because now I don't have to go to Brewer, there's multiples in Brewer, Bangor, Holden,
Right.
there's one in Ellsworth, there are multiple all over the place.
No, as long
Even
as you're
for the
happy.
Dunkin', you gotta know where they
I've
are.
been getting all my smoothies from that Ananda Luna down in Orland Village.
Well, we're gonna fix that.
Yes. Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot to leave that on the list too. We do real fruit smoothies as well, so that's
Yeah.
another.
Are you guys gonna
Part
do
of
the
it.
bowls?
Yeah, we started doing them in Ellsworth, and
Oh.
they've been a big hit. The way I wanted
See
to do
what's
it
important
is,
here.
we started off with a small selection,
This is all
and I
good.
wanted to slowly scale it out because I didn't want to start offering a bunch of stuff, have a bunch of stuff, not become real popular, and then deal with waste and all that type of stuff. So we've been slowly rolling it out, and we plan to roll out some more cool stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Nice.
The bowls are pretty cool.
yeah,
I'll
They're
let
like
you
a 5 bowls, and they have like fruit and stuff in them.
yeah.
Your application said that you're not owning the building, you're leasing it.
Correct,
You've already
yeah.
worked that all out.
Yeah,
So,
lease is all signed. We took a little bit of a risk. We've already in there, I already started building counters in there,
Yeah.
knowing that we needed this to go through first, but
Yeah.
we also wanted to try to be open middle to end of July if everything goes well, so we can capitalize on, the busy season, tourist season, all that type of stuff. So we took on that risk knowing we had a few, hurdles that we had to clear first, but
Does
Okay.
Nolan, was it Nolan? Who owns that? The plumbing place?
Bill Nichols.
Bill Nichols, that's
Yeah.
what it is, Nichols Plumbing. and
Really
Fittings.
nice guy. He owns it right now. He's selling it, which is part of the reason why he was so motivated to lease it, because that's
Yeah.
part of the sale. I can't remember when it's going through, but I'm pretty sure it's within the next week or two.
Huh.
I think is when the sale's supposed to finalize, as far as I'm aware, anyway.
All right.
Cool.
Is there any public comment on this application? Nope.
A healthy alternative to McDonald's.
Yes.
Alright. Any other questions?
I have none.
Alright. Well, let's get rolling through for the review then. Environmental standards. Environment objectives that must be met.
Again, they're not building anything new. There's nothing outside, so there's no new stormwater, there's no soil being disrupted. There's no surface or subsurface waters changing.
So this is not applicable.
None of that is applicable.
Alright. Special area standards. Do we need to vote on it's not applicable?
I mean, they're not doing anything that's going to affect prehistorical or historical importance. They're not doing anything to affect Vista scenic value. They're not changing access to public water bodies or wetlands. They're not doing anything for flood hazard. They're not changing any unique natural character. I'd say it's all not applicable.
Yep, I agree. Local area standards, local areas objectives that must be met, except as noted.
Scale and site features would be not applicable because they're not changing anything outside.
No,
Land use is appropriately separated and shielded.
that's,
Any relevant detrimental effects from electric? No.
no. Okay,
Signage, we talked about, I think you put it on the application too, it's just, what'd you say, a hand?
Yeah, because
hand
Prim and
sign?
Treasures has their decal above the door on the building, and then there's a rod that comes off the side of the building where a hang sign was at one point, and so we plan on putting one there too.
Is there gonna be any lighting or anything like that?
No, just basic signs.
What are your hours going to be?
Most likely the same as Ellsworth, which is Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. till 5 p.m., and then on the weekends, it's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Like 7 days a week,
Yeah.
right?
you're not gonna be able to vote, you keep it up.
I'm just saying it.
Public safety standards. Public safety objectives that must be met. The quantity and quality of public and private drinking water supplies are adequately protected from any relevant detrimental effects of the land use.
Other than making sure he has a backflow preventer, I don't know what else I.
Yep.
That's town water, I assume.
Mhm.
That's sewer.
Yeah, it is.
Like I said, I don't really think there's much need for any of this review, it's just that it's required, so.
I'm looking to see that building is well established, and I'm looking to see what sections in here would be applicable. Let's look at it from that angle. Let's just continue to go through. We've done well going through showing what's not applicable. So if, in public safety standards, does anyone see any that are applicable?
Well, you said that in the application, your solid waste is only going to be like a trash bag a day, something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly, right, and I'll be removing that from the property, because in Ellsworth, we have an on-site dumpster, and we took into account that we don't have one here, so usually per day, it might be around like 2 regular household trash bags of just normal cardboard, paper type stuff, so I'll be removing that daily at the end of every shift.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Is there a sidewalk there? There's no sidewalks in front of that, is there?
is.
Yep.
There is. There is?
Yep.
All right. So your question would fall under Section 5, under the proper management of solid waste is adequately protected from any relevant detrimental effects of the land use. There are not any. Section 4, public wastewater facilities are adequately protected from any relevant detrimental effects of the land use. You're not going to be dumping any chemicals down any drains
No.
or anything like that.
No.
Jumping back to Section 6, the safety and sufficiency of streets and sidewalks are adequately protected from any relevant detrimental effects of the land use. Are you doing anything that would affect the streets or sidewalks? at
Nope.
all?
You want to take a vote on that section?
I do. Under public safety standards, is there clear and convincing evidence in the record to support the conclusion that the above applicable public safety objectives have been met?
I would motion that they have been met.
Second.
All in favor? Very good. All affirmative.
I don't see any specific use standards. I don't see any dimensional standards. Which brings you to your final vote.
All right. I would agree.
Save that form in your packet, you can use it again for the next one.
Yeah. Not a bad one at all. All right, decision. Based on the conclusions of the planning board as documented above, the proposed land use will not have any impact that is contrary to the purposes of Appendix K land use. Therefore, the application is approved. All in favor? Very good.
Awesome, well, thank you guys very much. Thank you all,
Try it
and
out.
I'll see you again in the near future, I'm sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Can I rock now?
Just for a minute.
Just next time.
Hi, George.
Next time, bring us a sample.
Hey, George, a little slower. Someone needs to lubricate the chairs here.
Yeah,
Someone
anything
got- Is that Luke's?
That is in his job description.
I thought so.
Yes.
So side note, this being so close to the area of Tozer's, where's the line between what Tozer's does and what he's doing that requires us to do a level 2 review?
Yeah, because when we're looking at that.
Closures probably had to go through 1, 2 at one
And that
point.
was.
Or House of Pizza.
Or run through
30
grandfather.
years ago.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Did you know this building that he is going into was the original Tozer's Market?
It was.
I did not.
That's what we're doing. Oh, so it's already gone through the
I
Showing
level
my age. There used to be a pool hall
I
there.
guess
Rice
mine
Pizza.
too.
I went there a lot of time and
It's
just
right-
said we're reestablishing an existing use.
Okay.
But you didn't tell me that.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
Mike
right.
Roy's restaurant, they used to sell pizza there. Tozer's Market used to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tozer's Market, pool hall.
Well, good.
All right.
Good, I'm glad
I got all
that's
that.
I
successful.
actually surveyed that property years ago. It must be good.
Doing a paint job on the outside.
All right, moving on. That was it for new business. We have administrative business. Section A, review of proposed marijuana language in Appendix K land use ordinance. A public hearing regarding proposed changes to marijuana language in Appendix K land use ordinance.
So the only thing that changed, since our last discussion on this. We really didn't have much that you guys wanted to see changed. I did, well, I think that falls under the Chapter 6 licensing portion, but I talked with Chief Gagan, Deputy Director, whatever it is. Public Safety Director, there we go.
There you go.
He is in agreement kind of with what those folks were saying, that if there's already a background check being done by the state, then there's probably not a need for us to do one. He wanted me to talk with a fella from the cannabis department at the state to find out what they review and what they're looking for when they do background checks, to make sure it's as thorough as we want to be before he makes the ultimate decision. But he's leaning towards, yes, we'll just accept what if the state's granted them a license, then we don't need to redo what they've already done. But I haven't been able to talk with the cannabis department just yet. Probably they're all on vacation.
I remember we weren't totally opposed to that, but we were worried about assuming any liability or tying ourselves into the state with any sort of situation that the state had going on. We wanted to be independent of any sort of...
Well, my concern, what I said to the chief was, if they don't, what if we want to be stricter than the state is? The state, those folks that were here mentioned that they only are looking at drug-related offenses.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what if we want to say all felonies, or what if we don't? I don't know. I'm just
Right.
saying.
Good point.
And that's when he said, find out what they're doing in Augusta, what they're actually looking at, and what they're basing their decision on, and then we'll have more information to know.
What would prevent the town from including certain misdemeanor convictions?
We can include anything we want, but that's basically what I called them to find
Yeah.
out, well, what do you, right now, it just says we're gonna do a background check, but it doesn't say, regardless of what it finds, it doesn't say what would disqualify somebody.
Right.
So, I feel like we should nail that down.
Did we run any parallels for what like-sized communities are doing with these types of scenarios or not?
Well, that was the other, yeah, they're not.
They're not doing background checks.
Well, not that I could find, so I'm not saying some of them might be doing that, but it's not in their ordinance that I saw.
Okay.
That would fall on to you to do the background.
No.
Right.
No, I wouldn't be privy to that.
Police, right? Public safety.
Police, yes, yeah. They
And is this an expense that the applicant would bear?
Well, it would come out of their application fee, yeah. Yeah.
So, when you get more information from the state and find out what they're looking at, and then you get more information on that, is there a chance of you consulting the town's attorney on a liability end of things?
I can, yeah.
Good question.
We don't have, like right here, we're doing public hearings.
Yeah.
We're not doing a public hearing on Chapter 6 tonight.
Yep,
Chapter 6 is the licensing portion of it.
yep.
So if we approve something tonight for it to go to council under these other things, they still have to go to council, have multiple readings and a public hearing there.
Right.
But I feel like the licensing portion would be kind of a secondary thing anyway, so there's a little more time on that. And we haven't figured out what we want to do for fees yet either and stuff, so that we want to get through those things. So probably next month I'll have the answers from the state. I'll have talked to Sean and Dave again,
Yeah.
and then we can nail down what we want to do.
Because if it's not necessary, then why tie up the money and resources?
Right, and that's what Sean was saying, and I
Yeah.
agree.
If
But
it's a safe thing to not do, then let's not do that.
But if the state did say only drug felonies, then how would you feel on that? I mean,
Define
You know,
that
I think
one,
it's
Jay.
just, I think we should
define
just,
fine.
I think we should just wait and see what the town, what
Yeah.
they say and what they do, because that could be a moot point.
Yep,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. There's a lot of...
If it goes further than that, then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. There's a lot of felonies. Let's see how I put this. There's a lot of felony scenarios that aren't necessarily applicable to this avenue of business, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Yes, there's also, you lose a lot of, there's a lot of penalties associated with being a felon.
Correct.
You lose a lot of privileges in
Right.
society, right? So,
Right.
But there's also people that have had multiple accounts of different things that are not felons.
Right. So that's,
So I think it's
I'd be
important.
curious to see what the state does as a baseline on our end. I just,
Okay. Other than that, and that's really chapter 6, not. I felt like
Question
the
for you.
flashes.
They're asking you to check it out? The
Sean
public
asked
safety?
me to talk to a fellow that I've already been talking with at the state. Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering because it would seem like those guys would know more about felony and what makes
He
clearer.
just asked me to find out what they're looking at the state level.
Okay,
Um,
all right.
And then if they decide they want it, yes, it's up to them to determine what they want to see or don't want to see. They're the ones that are going to have to deal with them if something happens on.
Well, they must have a list of, the state must have a list of different things they look for before even doing the background check.
That's what I want to get. I don't know what that list is.
Never mind.
and if we don't have to dive that deep into it and we're safe from all of it, then
Yeah.
why bother? It's better for them and the business, it's better for us, it's better for everything. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing for this topic. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
Is that okay if I just introduce myself?
Yeah, come on
Ask a
up.
couple?
Come on up and stand right at the...
So, hi, everyone. I'm Jordan Godino, and my wife and I own Green Island Herb over on Rhode Island. And I guess I've been in operation since 2015 as a licensed caregiver. Summer of 2018, we opened up the store at the old location, and then moved across. And so I'm here tonight just to. I've been interested in seeing what Bucksport's position and which way the town decides to go as far as allowing or disallowing this activity and in what shape that would look. So I'm here from someone in the industry that's interested in finding a home in Bucksport, quite honestly. And I would also like to offer myself from our vantage point, our experience, what we know as an expert from operating a business. I wanted to raise my hand and say, I can let you know, not as an expert as far as, because I have to get background checked. And it is beyond just drug felonies, but yes, it's good to check in with the state as far as seeing how extensive that is. I do think there's concerns. I think that it's very prudent to know we're talking about a cash business. We're talking about there have been examples around the state of people that are not operating under the regulations or the laws, and that can be a problem for a town or for its community. And so I think that I think it's an important discussion to see what the state requires, but I'm not one that says, I think it's concerning because I don't think you can word a good moral character or, you have to be an ethical person in this business. You have to be paying your taxes. You should have demonstrated ability to follow the rules and to be willing to follow the rules. And so I think whatever you put in place, I would highly suggest that whether or not it's above and beyond what the state requires, there is a screening process that says you understand who's coming into your town to operate a business. So a couple of things. I really just want to stay part of the process. I hope that I can be here for meetings whenever you discuss these things. I'd like to offer myself to be available to answer questions or to just let you know from what we're doing and what we've experienced and what we would hope to do. So I do hope the planning board sees this as something that's a positive thing for Bucksport, and it can be done in a way that's positive and benefits the town and the community. And I would just like to be part of that process. So that's really why I'm here tonight. And, you know, like I said, I'll try and stay in contact with Luke to know when it's appropriate to be put on the agenda, if I have anything specific to address that I have questions about or that I would like to move forward, or even just to be here to answer any questions that I can too. So, yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Appreciate
So are
it.
you looking
Thank you.
to open up another center in Bucksport, or are you, I guess my question would be, are you, in what, some things that were brought up before, is it gonna be, like a competition with you?
So, just directly,
Yeah.
we would like to have an adult use store.
Okay.
We think that it's important. We have a medical store. We've been medical. We're very happy being a medical storefront. We have to be careful with the terms because I don't want to say dispensary. People say dispensary, but technically we are not a dispensary. So a state licensed dispensary, as last I knew, there was 8 of those. They have a very specific set of rules that are different than what a caregiver storefront is, which is what we operate, caregiver storefront. Versus what we're interested in, which would be an adult use. I say adult use because people use recreational sales. Well, we're not doing, yes, we're making sales, and that's, you know, a transaction, but it's not recreational sales. This is medical sales versus adult use, which is what really the correct term for selling to people that are without a medical card and over 21. There are some vast differences within the program that the states run. There are 2 programs. There's a medical program and there's an adult use program. The adult use program has significantly more oversight, rules, and regulations. I find it surprising that towns are often more open to medical than adult use. I think because maybe the optics sound better. Well, this must be necessary. We don't want to limit people having access to medicine. But the reality is that the rules are loose. There's no track and trace, so if you're not familiar with that, every single plant is tagged, and the state has a database that knows exactly what's growing, what's been harvested, what's on hand, and how much is being sold at all times. And any time they have a portal. So adult use, there's a lot more of a burden on the owner-operators to be able to participate in that program. So you have to be pretty serious to be successful in that and to meet state compliance. It's more expensive, and it just takes a lot more of being able to follow that paperwork trail and knowing what the rules and regulations are and staying in compliance. So I do think when towns are unaware that there's actually more accountability in the adult use market than there is in the medical market, it's worth knowing. So I'm not suggesting or saying that I'd love to see you do adult use and not medical. I'm just saying that I think it's something that towns aren't always aware of those differences. And I think it's important to know that. So, you know, we in the medical side, you're able to obtain a card under 21. I don't like that. I don't like that legally that an 18-year-old patient can purchase on their own. But that is what the state has decided is okay. That's what doctors are deciding that they can certify. And so in the adult use, you have to be 21 to make a purchase and have a valid ID to do so. So that's a big difference that people aren't aware of as well. You know, despite having a sign that says medical only, despite having a big red stop sign on our door and a locked door that says medical only, we still probably have 4 or 5 out-of-state people that will ring the door. Why can't I buy? And we have to turn them away and say no, and we tell them to go to Bangor. So off they go with their kayaks or whatever it is, and you know, they're making purchases in Bangor and taking their business elsewhere. So I do think that you know, I think Bucksport would be a perfect location for us to have a second store. When it gets to that point, if things, you know, progress and things are moving forward, we would be more specific about exactly what we wanted when we wanted it, and hopefully that would be something that the town is willing to look at issuing license if it gets that far. I know there's a lot of steps to the council and public hearings. I would love the opportunity to speak with community members that have concerns. There's a lot of stereotypes surrounding what's going to happen with this. I think what we've established and have proven is that we can have a quality business that people respect, that improves the neighborhood, doesn't take away from it, we haven't had a single police officer, there hasn't been an increase in crime on Verona. The only times the police have come by is when they've had questions about things outside of, in the community. Do you have camera footage for this? Or, they've asked us as a resource, so willing to work with public safety and for those reasons. And so I think I'm rambling a little bit, but that's the gist of it. So that's why I'm here tonight. And like I said, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome.
I'm sure we'll have questions in the future.
Okay. And after this piece of business, does it make sense? I mean, is this all you're going to talk about as far as for marijuana related?
We read through word for word everything at the last meeting, which is on the website. And depending on how they vote tonight, it would move on to the council. And before it can go to the council, it goes to the ordinance, what the heck's the name of that committee? Remember, Jim?
Ordinance committee.
It's just the ordinance committee? Okay.
No, which of our committees on the council is?
Yeah, one of the council committees. Regulatory, that's it, regulatory review.
Yeah.
So I would probably end up reading the whole thing again in front of them and discussing and answering any questions that they have, and that would probably be a good one for you to be at. If they had questions, you could answer them. And then it would go on to the first reading of the council, and then the next council meeting, they would have a public hearing and a second reading. If all goes well, it would be approved.
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't been any phone calls or questions. This was advertised in the paper. There hasn't been any phone calls or questions there. Neither for or against. Nobody's had any concerns that I've heard about. So,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of that's due to the way you run your business over there, and a lot of people that had concerns have seen, well, it's no big deal. It's just another business, and it's nice, it's clean, it's nice looking. The only thing I get is, you know what I'm going to say.
Right, and
The place across the street, the smell and the lights.
right.
I didn't want to bring that up. I thought we'd be here too long.
And I acknowledge and I understand that those are concerns, those are issues, and I know that there's not smell ordinances and odor mitigation requirements at this point that are, the state doesn't have them at a level that I would have to respond to remedy that. Light ordinances, which I understand, some people may have noticed some lights at certain times of the night. And so as far as the growing, so there's the retail side of things, which is a separate operation from the growing. And obviously, where you regulate and where those activities would take place would make sense to think that out.
It would be nice if you didn't have to have a regulation to do something about the odor. Just thought I'd throw that out there since you so nicely said there's no regulation telling you have to do it.
And I wouldn't want you to think that I won't do something preemptively. So we certainly would, and there are a few things. Those are expensive. I mean, the best thing that you can do.
Understood, but it's your business.
The best thing that you can do is put them in a place that won't disturb people. That's the easiest thing, as far as the growing side of things.
I believe that producing marijuana is a separate.
It is. We addressed that in the ordinance as well. Cultivation facilities, production facilities, adult use stores, medical marijuana stores, they're all separate things in the ordinance. And odor mitigation is something that's required in our ordinance. Verona doesn't have an ordinance because they never opted in. So
So on adult use, does that give you a allotted amount of plants you can grow, or do you have to purchase your plants outside of Where
So
sell?
the state offers, so they're separate licenses. So I have 2 licenses from the state currently. So one is for cultivation, and a set amount of plants that I can cultivate. The other is a separate license for the caregiver store. And each caregiver can operate one storefront, so that you can't have multiple locations. There are everybody finds ways to get around that, so sometimes people will sell a name, and there's another caregiver that technically owns that. So if you see a medical store and you say, well, I saw one, there's some ways that people get around that, but technically it's one store. Adult use, you can have unlimited licenses in theory, and cultivation would be a separate license. So for a retail license, you would obtain that. You have to have municipal approval first before they would issue it, so you'd have to show that whatever town you want to operate in is signed off on that, and then they would issue the retail license with their fee structure, which would be separate from whatever the town fee structure is. And so at this point, we're interested in not only a retail location, but also cultivation, quite possibly, because whatever we're doing on Verona is strictly medical. There can be no crossover. What's coming out of that greenhouse cannot move over to an adult use store. It's a complete separate entity. So cultivation would either be utilizing other growers around the state that are within the adult use program, and then those would be licensed products through the state and tracked and barcoded so that they know exactly what's happening everywhere, like I said, and you can just be a standalone retail store like that. So that's where we would like to start. I would love to be able to find a home for a more commercial, more appropriately placed facility that could be for production as well. And if Bucksport was open to that and it made sense, then we would want to have that as part of our operation. As far as
we put that in the rural section, in the industrial park, and in the industrial zone, those 3 areas where we said cultivation could be. Because I kind of attribute it to farming, even though we limited it to indoors. You're not talking about huge amounts of truck traffic and a real heavy industrial use. Really, it's more like indoor farming.
Yeah, and the state has tiers, so I believe there's up to 4 tiers for square footage that's allowed. You pay based on the tier that you want to operate under. This is for adult use. And then they even have if you want to go above tier 4, they have another special category for the people that are going above that. Now medical, it is limited. There's only so big that there's only so many plants, or there's only 500 square feet. You can do plant count, or you can do square footage. They give you an option these days. So you can have more than 30 plants, but they give you a small footprint, is kind of what they do. So, you can only, if that's happening in certain areas, it's somewhat limited how much of a stink you could make with those plants, which is arguable. Some people might say you can make a lot of stink with a small amount of plants, but adult use, it can be a real problem. You're talking about potentially industrial-sized greenhouses with thousands of square feet. So you kind of want to know what's happening with something on that scale. As far as the fees, I would just offer, the state has the municipalities that I've seen watching other towns have significant differences in what they're charging for fees. And I said this the other day, and I just said, I don't think that a town should treat a business as the ugly duckling laying golden eggs. If you don't want it, but you think that I've seen up to $7,500 for a license fee in a town, and I've seen as low as $500. These can be very positive businesses for a town, just like any other business, and it should cover whatever resources and costs I believe a town has to put in to managing it and also overseeing it. And it seems like an excessive fee structure really puts a challenge on a small business to be successful. It's almost saying like, so I think that a marijuana business can do all the things that any other business does. We have 6 full-time employees. that are year-round. You know, that did not exist on Verona a few years ago. Those 6 jobs, year-round employment, security, you know, plus, you know, ourselves, that wasn't there as far as, and I know there was the restaurant, but the restaurant had to go away. You know, it wasn't able to make it. So things do change, and we were able to fill a space that was necessary to be filled, and provide jobs, and not to mention all the local contractors and things like that go into that. Not to mention that we buy from other local vendors and all of that, so it's creating quite an economy for the community. Not to mention spreading out to other businesses on the island from that. So I know you know these things. I'm not trying to say things you don't know. I just don't want it to be forgotten. I just think that I think it's important to remember that it can improve the community, and you know, it's something that will give people more reason to stay put and to stay local. So that's that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it.
Any more on
Okay.
that topic, Luke? No?
Next time he comes, does he bring samples?
I don't think so. I don't think so, George. No,
Oh,
I
good.
tried to get that with a nutrition check.
no. All right. Moving on, section B.
Wait a minute, we gotta close the public hearing.
We do. All right, we're done with that. We'll close the public hearing on the marijuana language for Appendix K.
Do you have any more you need to?
You wanna take a vote on sending it on to the council, or?
Or do we want to vote now, or do we want to wait till he gives us more information from the?
No, that's chapter 6 that you're gonna get the more information on. This is Schedule K land use ordinance. The background checks
Yep.
is part of the licensing under chapter 6.
Oh, okay, that's not going to affect that.
Mm.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we've got plenty of information in the last few meetings, so does everyone feel comfortable voting now?
Is that what we're waiting on from that guy?
What's that?
State
Yeah.
is about the background check stuff, and that's the licensing under chapter 6. It's a
Okay, not
separate-
this. Okay.
It's a separate part of the
Gotcha.
ordinance, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So this would just be the language in the Appendix K land use ordinance pertaining to marijuana language we discussed last week.
Does anyone have any?
I would motion that those regarding those proposed changes be passed on to the town council for their consideration.
All right. Anyone second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Very good.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Lou.
So the next ones is the changes we made to the R1, that should say R1S, which would allow marijuana, adult use or medical retail stores, and it would also allow restaurants and taverns on the river side of US Route 1. Those were the changes we talked about. The other change we talked about was no longer requiring that the business look residential in nature.
Yes.
So those would be, I guess, 4 things that we were going to change in that.
Yep.
Any comments? Anybody commented about that?
A lot of people.
Really? All right.
I haven't had a peep about any of these. Nobody's called a question. And I thought once the ad was in the paper and stuff that people would be. I haven't had any questions.
Huh.
So,
All
Can I
right.
ask, those 4 things, are you able to repeat those again?
yeah, so basically what we said was we wanted, the planning board determined that we wanted the marijuana stuff to be on US Route 1, at least the retail portion of it. Cultivation and testing, that can be in the industrial park or different places, but But the retail portion of it, we wanted it to be on US Route 1. But then, come to find out, US Route 1 is divided because the riverside is Route 1 shoreland, and the non-riverside is C1, Commercial 1. Commercial 1 would allow marijuana, would allow restaurants, would allow taverns. C2 won't. I'm sorry, R1 shoreland won't. So we proposed changing that so that they would be allowed on both sides of the road. And then there's also a clause in the ordinance currently that says all businesses on the Route 1 shoreland side have to look like residential. But the other side of the road, they don't. Which we didn't think made much sense. If you were going to do it one way or the other, fine, but to have it one way on one side and the other way on the other makes no sense.
Plus, we've already got McDonald's.
So that was our thinking, and so that's what we proposed as a
That
change.
looks like a house.
Okay.
So,
Still a restaurant.
But
But
didn't we
whatever
also
was
discuss
Which is we're doing it, going out Route 15? Wasn't that also in the discussion?
we did, and
We
that,
talked about it,
So all the cars coming out, turning right all the time, but weren't we trying to get them to go down through town?
Yeah, wasn't that like
Thought
from,
that was a topic of discussion.
wasn't it near, the bank and that way?
yeah, we talked about doing from like Seaboard
Yeah.
up.
Right.
But I had visions of every house on the River Road being turned into a marijuana store.
I'm sorry, see it?
I said I had visions of every house on Route 15 being turned into a marijuana store. Have you driven Route 1 lately down south?
Well, I don't know if it makes any difference there than it does right over here where we have residences.
Well, I partly agree with that, but we have a huge lack of housing.
There are some, nice homes right in that particular area we're talking about allowing marijuana and restaurants to go into right now.
yeah, I live there now.
Hmm?
I live there now, so, tell ya, I feel it.
Which one's yours?
Tell you later.
That's why I was asked in the comments, because I'm really surprised that some of the folks, maybe they don't understand what we're proposing.
To turn left at the sign rather than turning right.
I'm sorry?
You mean to try to get people to turn left instead of always turning right?
Well, yeah, we're talking two things, yeah, kind of.
The other thing that we were talking about, though, for the industrial park, we were talking about power and infrastructure set up on that side of Route 1, and then the industrial park and all that, for expansion and growth for these types of businesses, too. Right? That was another thing that we were talking about, accessibility and all that.
If you guys want to add the River Road in, we can add River Road in, but it's something you guys have to decide.
I personally don't feel it's necessary.
Hmm?
I personally don't feel it's necessary. There's plenty of room on Route 1 for business growth there. Plenty. That's my
I
personal
would not
opinion.
dispute that.
I think there's plenty of room for expansion on Route 1 and
You're talking Route 1 left? Or Route 1
both.
Right.
right?
Both.
Right. You have to go right because it doesn't start until you get
No,
down
he's
to.
talking which side of the road.
Which side of the road?
Yeah,
both
both.
on. Yeah.
Oh.
So, is there any other thoughts about the River Road, Route 15? No thoughts?
What about business-wise? Would it matter to you to be going towards Bangor or going towards Ellsworth?
I've always thought that going right on Route 1 made the most sense for locations.
Bar Harbor.
And-
Headed to Bar Harbor.
Yeah.
I think you'll find that's the majority of traffic comes in.
It is.
Did you open it for public hearing yet?
I did not, but we'll listen to him.
Sorry. No, oh, should I? I can go.
No, you're good.
Oh, you're good.
Tell us. Give us your insight. Tip us off on your business ideas.
Oh, God.
Wait, who's taking notes?
We all are.
It's broadcast, it's recorded.
Yeah.
Your competition will know all about you.
Right.
And I've already lost my point to that. So, other than that, so much of it is about the traffic. Now, I'm not saying that there's not local community members that would benefit from not having access, but the summer, just like every other business, is what is really driving the market right now. Because Mainers have such good access to quality, and it's accessible in the medical side of things. They pay less taxes. That right now it's a vital and important part of what's supporting the growth of the adult use industry is tourism. It's just a fact. I think eventually it will become more normalized and medical will be less important, and people will be able to access it as adult use, and that way it'll benefit more local people, more Mainers, and I think that'll take time in a few years. When you look at California, Colorado, Washington, more mature states, that's what happens, is eventually the medical will shrink and the adult use will take over predominantly. So whether that's 5 years, 10 years, I don't know, but that's just what the industry trends are. And what location is very important for that, and so visibility. Yeah.
Thank you.
The other thing too is we're going to have all the structure in the ordinance for how to regulate them.
Mhm.
If we decide we want to change, add more zones or whatnot that are allowing it, that's a real easy thing to change.
I guess my thought is about Route 15 is, cultivation facilities require a lot more space than store facilities do.
I think cultivations are allowed out there in this ordinance. It's only the retail that, let's see what we did.
Well, wasn't that what we said, was cultivation out there in the,
Cultivation's going to
Residential
require
section.
building,
Right,
3 or 4 or 5,000 square feet maybe.
a lot more than that.
You got to kind of consider where that's going to be.
George, start rocking, will you?
Hmm?
Start rocking, he's concentrating.
Yeah, really. Thank you.
While he's looking for that, I guess we should open the public hearing on this topic, if anyone else has any comments or anything to say.
We allowed cultivation in rural 1, Route 15, residential, commercial, industrial, C3, C2, C1, and that says downtown. That should not say that. It should say Route 1 shoreline.
That answers my question about
to grow it on Route 1?
No, in C1. Route 1 is shoreline. Where is that? No, I didn't put cultivation in Route 1S. I put all the other stuff in Route 1S. I don't know if there's really enough room on that side to do that there. It would be difficult.
Plus they would be, I'm assuming, they would have to go with all the shoreland zone and
Oh,
the
yes. Yeah.
ordinances, and it would be a pain in the butt.
So,
a lot of mud flat in that area.
all right.
Maybe it's good soil, I don't know.
All right.
No other comments? No other? All right, we'll close the public hearing on that.
Vote.
Do we have a proposal to send that to the council?
I would make a motion that we send that proposal to the council for their review.
Thank you for that motion,
He's so
Jay.
good at that.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, all in favor? Very good. Thank you much.
So the last one is the review of proposed changes to the downtown zone. So originally we talked about whether we would, change the zone of the Masonic Hall from downtown, from some village to downtown, and after reviewing that and discussing that, we talked about. So this is the current zoning, and I sent you these. And this is what's, sorry about that.
I think that'll turn them off anyway.
This is the proposed zoning. So basically, it would take the back line of the Masonic Hall and go all the way across to include the Methodist Church and those buildings right there along Franklin Street, and would change them from village to downtown, opening up more opportunities for business in those locations. And Mr. Peterson has asked that I review what that would entail allowing versus what is currently allowed. So,
Did you just make that request?
No, I did not make, I said just be prepared for that.
okay, you don't want to do that then?
You don't need to do that right now. We're not there. We started with this person wanting, if we're gonna have a discussion right now.
Yeah.
We started with this person who's buying the old Masonic building,
Thank you.
okay?
Thank you.
Who, I have no problem, he wants to put in apartments,
Yeah.
okay? But he also, or she, has decided that they also want to have a wine cellar and a wine tasting, or whatever the case may be, all right? And because of that now, we don't want to do any contract zone for whatever reason, which would be a perfect example of contract zoning. Instead now, we show up at a meeting that we're going to now go and cut the pie right across the back line. And we're going to include all those buildings right there because this one person wants to have a wine business in the basement. My question would be, why don't you continue that line? My question would be, why don't you go to public safety and continue that way? You've done it on Franklin Street all the way down. Why are you cutting out that piece of the pie for this one company? And we don't know what they're going to do later. I'm assuming, and I hate to use that word, but I'm assuming that that person at that point would have more opportunities to say, well, wait a minute now, I'm downtown. I can now open up a grocery store. I can open up all these other, opportunities with that building. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that we started with a wine cellar. That would be the perfect example of contract zoning. And we're going right across, and now my yard would be attached to that downtown. And so I'm just saying, from my point of view, we're accommodating one person and cutting out a big piece of pie for that one person. I don't understand it.
But if it includes your parking, your yard, why don't you do like some vegetables and stuff? And
Yeah, why don't you
sell like
get on the train and sell?
No, it only comes up to my line.
Oh, well, we'll
Yeah.
just include your line and then you can.
Okay, we'll include my property in this now, okay? All right? I'm just saying, at this point, we started out with one little thing
Yep.
that this person had requested.
So may I ask a question?
Please.
Is there a precedent to amend zoning?
Of course.
So this is something that has happened before?
Yeah, zoning is always, everything, just
It's-
like the ordinance
it's-
that we just adjusted,
so-
everything, these are all living documents.
Some towns don't even have zoning.
Some smaller town.
Well,
Correct.
right.
Smaller town.
So my thought is, we zone based upon not necessarily like a street or a neighborhood, but on streets, which is like, do you know what I mean? Both sides of a street might be right, and we just aren't we changing zoning out on Route 1 to allow restaurants and to, you know what I mean?
That's what we just did.
This is what we do, right?
Yeah.
So, it's not without precedent, is my point. And I think another consideration is you have a property that's really been sitting idle, really undeveloped. Vacant properties aren't good for a community. There's a lot, I mean, if you've been inside, you know there's going to be a tremendous amount of capital required to renovate that into any sort of usable space.
Which one are we talking about?
Let's talk about the Masonic.
Yeah, I know if we were
And-
talking about the church or the
And
Masonic
the church
Hall.
too, if you
Yeah.
might, let's say you wanted to put apartments in the church, or make that to a residential.
Yeah.
But you, I don't know.
That's already zoned for it.
Or maybe put in part of that building, a storefront, a salon. And let's say you wanted to move a salon there, or, you know what I mean? It happened to be, right now, the building is vacant, it's unkempt, it's kind of an eyesore.
Mhm.
And if somebody wants to buy that and it can tilt the needle in their favor to develop that particular space, I think, into something, and we always have the right to say no.
I agree with that.
You know what I mean? That's, if someone said they want to open a strip club there, well, that's obviously not allowed, but I mean, we have that, I mean, that's what we do. So depending
Right.
upon what it is, that whatever they put in there, we're gonna have to like take a look at and
Yes.
decide if it's something we want.
This
In terms of it being a wine bar, you're right across from the public safety building. I mean,
So-
it could be no more scrutinized, watched over, I mean, this isn't like there was a place on the outskirts of town, like when closing time would come years ago, you know what I mean, there was, you could just pick up.
So what, I will say this particular people that are buying it were published in a magazine for the work that they've done.
Mhm.
This is not going to be something that is,
Nobody has said it is.
right, but I'm
Any
just saying
different.
it's going to be
No, my
high
point,
end, it's not going to be something that's,
if I may, my point
Yeah.
is, don't carve, if you're gonna do it, don't carve out just that section. Take the whole thing and go all the way down Franklin, because all the way down Franklin right now is zoned downtown. So,
Right, so,
I'm not really opposed. You might be surprised at how I feel about this. I am just opposed at carving out a special piece for this person, okay?
which is
And-
why I carved out that whole block instead
Yeah,
of.
but it's only a block. And I just believe that if you're gonna build that section, as I said before, public safety is how old? How old's a building, public safety?
1967.
Okay, all right. I'm not saying tomorrow they're gonna change, but
We can
they,
include that if you'd like, but I
Well-
don't think that, obviously, it's not gonna have any.
well, you got parking up at the top, on the other side of Central, right? There's parking up there. Up in the top, on the other side of Central, not my side.
over here.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's parking
Yes.
right now, for the church. We all know, maybe things will change there, I don't know. But why aren't we just saying, let's,
You mean St. Vincent's lot?
I
yeah.
don't think it's actually their lot, they just use it.
So I'm saying, why aren't
I
we,
think it's ours.
if we're gonna do it, why don't we go all the way over to that street?
to Central Street.
It's not? Okay. I
Go
stand
to-
corrected.
So if you're going to build something for the future, if you're going to take a bold stand, okay, then take a bold stand. Don't carve out just a piece of the pizza and go, got it.
But if you, well, you can't see it now because you're.
So you're saying go all the way over to Central Street?
I'm saying to be fair to all the people there, and any place on Franklin Street, do what you've done. You've already got it going all the way down.
Down, you're talking going down the whole length of
I'm
Central
saying
Street?
go all the way down Franklin Street.
All the way down
If you're
Franklin.
going to do it, why not just do it? Then, your future, you've got it all covered, you're moving forward. There are places on that street that you could probably do something, retail or whatever. I don't know what else we could be looking
What
at.
about, yeah, well, that building that Larry bought is on,
Larry?
Larry Wall bought
The
that.
Wilson?
Yeah, the Wilson Hall, that would
Well,
be encompassed.
That's further out.
That's further, yeah.
Right, but it's not that much further up if you
Well,
drive
no, I
going.
think, I'm not sure if Larry's is there or not, I haven't even looked. But, yeah, so,
This is
It
public
has frontage
safety,
on Franklin Street.
and
yeah,
that's Wilson.
yeah, so Larry would end up having part of that in too. I mean, all I'm saying is you look at what you're doing. If you can't go there, start at the next street on the other side of public safety, take those lots and go all the way down as far as you can. That would make sense. That's all I'm trying to do, is I am opposed to just carving out pieces. And I still think that Masonic Building is a perfect example of contract zoning, where you don't have to do anything except contract zone for that establishment. You can control what's going to happen in the future better. Done. But if you're going to go in downtown zone, downtown zone. That's all. That's my thinking on it. I've been up boards before, and I've seen how it spreads. And I'm opposed to it, but at the same time, I think you have to talk out loud.
What spreads?
Huh?
You've seen how what?
Well, in other words, just accommodate one person, okay, and then you start going into the
Well,
other.
that's why I did the whole block.
I understand the block, but the block is just the block.
We can always change it again.
No, we can always change it back to something else perhaps. The whole point here is, let's say we do that. We haven't had any mailers go out like I thought we should on this, going to the abutters, people near the property. I think that would have been the right thing to do to notify them. But if we're not going to do that, then I think we have to at least have a discussion about where the future is here in Bucksport.
Well, let's hold off on that. Hit the pause button on that if I could. We do have a public forum for a public hearing listed on the agenda, and did we advertise in the paper?
Just the paper.
So we did what we were required to do for a
That is
public
correct.
hearing.
Yeah,
Yes, you
I checked
did.
The ordinance
Okay.
does
Yeah,
not
you-
require notification of abutters for this,
All right.
but I don't disagree that it might not have been.
No,
But
but
no
no.
matter how many people you
Yeah.
notify, it's still gonna be people that didn't.
No, hey, understand where I'm coming from. One person wants to put a wine cellar in, now you're gonna cut across, and I don't really know who made all the decisions, and I guess it was you, Luke, to say, well, why don't we just cut that piece of pie out?
So let me talk for a minute,
Yes,
and let me say that if I'm Luke,
yes,
and I'm the code enforcement officer,
yes.
and I'm looking at this situation, I would find it very reasonable to cut that block out based on my knowledge of those buildings, knowing that the church is empty and its future is one big question mark.
Yeah, tear it down, yeah.
And that building on the
Or-
corner.
And
Of
the building on the
Central
corner, and/or
And those-
anything.
Well,
So it's not unreasonable for him to come to us with an option.
Did I just hear you say, because of the church now, okay, which is right there,
Right.
and now we're gonna go to the next building over, which is apartments, I think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we start going up Central Street?
This
Because
is-
you got another building next to it that also is,
Up Central or Franklin?
Up
no,
Central.
no, up Central.
Woodman's.
No, I don't wanna say, yeah, I don't wanna say it out loud.
Oh,
I'm just saying, at this point, did you think about it?
Sorry.
Okay, because that's what we're doing right now. We're having an open discussion on what would help with the development of that area,
Yeah.
okay? And we're not just looking at just the Masonic building now. Now we've opened it up to, okay, well, the old church, it's an eyesore. I go by it every day, all right? So I'm all for whatever would improve that. And I think Mark has already said how much he's for improving that.
Yeah.
What else are we having a discussion about then? Let's improve that whole corner. Is there anything in the ordinance that makes those folks, if we were to do something different, because I don't know, that would have more power over those properties? I don't know.
I'm not sure I 100% follow what you're
Well,
saying.
the
Yeah.
question is, it to be downtown zone. Is there a difference in downtown versus village?
I think that it's, I mean, I don't see, I mean, you could, like, bringing all of that into downtown, if you think of it, like, there are parts of downtown that are almost, that are more business focused, and there are parts of downtown zone that are still residential, right?
Yeah.
Right, and you're, like, abutting a part of downtown Main Street that's very business, like, dense. So instead of just stringing it out along, you're, you know what I mean, it's not like it's out in the middle of, I don't know, it's, you know, it's against, it's surrounded by all residential, right? It's already abutting, you know, a business dense part of the town.
Right.
So it makes, I mean, now you go back a block. It's, so maybe that's part of it too. I mean, if you think, like, businesses don't have to just be along Main Street, right? That's not, they don't have to, we don't have linear thinking. It can be, I'm not gonna lose sleep over, like, you know, lines that aren't perfectly straight here, or, I
This,
mean, and the nature of that building too is not it's not a residential, you know, to do, what could you do, condos there right now if we didn't change?
What's the difference between village and downtown that allows you, what's the difference in what you can do?
There you go, now it's open.
There you go. That's where we were getting at.
That's right, exactly.
So, restaurants are allowed in the downtown, they're not allowed in the village. Auction houses are allowed in the downtown, not in the village.
Ooh, I've always wondered when I was.
Funeral homes are allowed in the downtown, but not in the village. Meeting facilities are allowed in the downtown, but not in the village.
Oh,
Well, then it's been a meeting place.
Yeah.
Meeting facilities, yes, that's been a meeting place, and I think Masons meet there.
Probably grandfathered before the ordinance.
Well, then
And
maybe
then,
this is a
then
new
you've got the
point.
American Legion up there, and they have meetings.
Indoor
Not many, but they
recreational
have meetings.
facilities are allowed in the downtown, but not the village. And taverns are allowed in the downtown, but not the village. I think those are the majority of them. See if there's anything mercantile.
it's a benefit to being downtown.
Small mercantiles, less than 3,000 square feet, are allowed in the downtown, but not the village.
How about making Buckley Lane all downtown? I'm not joking.
I'm here to listen to you folks.
Well, I'm just saying, it's a dead-end street. There's only two other properties you would, well, actually a third property, I think. Well, I'm not sure. Mark, do you butt right up to the road?
Yes.
Yeah, so it'd be third property that would be at the end of that road. Hey, he could open up his fruit stand right there, too.
I don't know what to do.
I know. I understand, Mark. I understand.
You can do that anyways.
Oh, the village allows that.
In this lull, I'll open up the public hearing regarding this topic. Does anyone from the public have any comments? None. All right, I will close the public hearing. Do we have any more productive discussion?
Well, if we're, as I said before, if we're going to include it, I'd love to have Buckley Lane included.
You'd like to be part of the downtown district?
Well, your sister's going to be part of the downtown. I think I should be part of the downtown. I'm right there. And Lynn's property, okay, would become part of the downtown. Jim may want to speak to that. I don't know. Okay. So, no, it's not, but it's pretty darn close.
So getting back on topic here, what started all
So
this?
you're saying you'd like to expand this up?
If you're going to do it, do Buckley Lane, because God knows what could happen to my
Can I say that for a
property in the
second?
future.
So that would include the
This
Daigle
room?
property, your property,
Yeah, look
and
up
Mark's
there, it's probably
property.
going to be easier. Well, no, did that tie Mark in
Yeah,
totally?
this is Mark right here.
That's
Well, just mark a line in front of Mark's property where he
And this
can.
is the Woodard property, and this is
Right.
the Wing property.
Yeah,
So you want to go all the way up to Georgia Wing's house?
it wouldn't bother me, but I don't know about how Mark would feel.
I don't care.
Mark doesn't care, okay?
You can put a 50-story skyscraper
Hey,
in my back lot.
your next door neighbor, your
As
next
long as you got a
door,
good cell tower.
That would include the two lots between you and the Masonic Hall as well.
well, one of those lots would
Do
be
they
a good
abut
thing to do
Buckley?
something with.
I don't,
Well, no, but I'm saying if I did this whole stretch, this whole block.
I can't imagine what would change.
Don't quit.
Yeah. Which one? This is yours.
That's mine, I have
That's
a
right
big,
there.
right,
That's
That's
Dick's right
yours?
there.
yep,
Directly in front of you is the Friendship House.
yes,
Correct.
Then there's the church.
yep,
Correct.
Then there's the apartment buildings right there.
right.
Correct.
These three lots right here have parking directly across from them on Franklin Street,
Yeah,
and they abut Franklin Street directly.
They have the most parking in Bucksport.
I could have a nice parking lot in front of my place.
Actually, you do
Right
have
now,
room for,
your
you
lawn.
could build a
I,
park.
right now, but it could be my parking lot for the future, buddy. I mean, hey, you're gonna have a discussion, let's go.
So this is what we were originally talking about, was this, and this is what you were pushing for, just specifically contract zoning.
Exactly.
Luke, with a very open mind, thought it would be a good idea to include these pieces of property here that have road frontage and abut Franklin Street.
Understood.
Because nobody liked the idea of boxing out one individual
So-
property.
Correct. And that, I think that's.
I love contract zoning.
I mean, well, you know,
Not everybody in this town agrees with you.
I know.
the that spot there, that block from Elm, Franklin, Maine,
Right here?
yeah.
Yep.
Central.
Yep.
There.
Yep, right
Yeah,
here.
right there. I mean,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties with Buckley Lane in the middle, yes.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of businesses right there. I don't want to say it's like the heart of Bucksport, but it's the,
Yes.
It's-
There's a church, there's an apartment building,
On there-
there's a realty office,
but then you've got like McLeod's and, you know, all
Well,
the
that's
stuff on
down,
Main Street.
down on Main Street.
yes.
But it's,
He's basically saying
I
from Main
think-
Street up to there are considered businesses all the way up through.
right, just, yeah, between there.
You don't really have any residential until you get up on the other side of Franklin.
Right, when you go on the other side of Franklin, you're into residential.
Yeah.
All the other sections on Franklin Street, from what you were asking, looking on other sections of Franklin Street.
Yes.
Are very much more so residential, that don't have the opportunities that this block has with that kind of parking access.
No disagreement if you zero it down to that,
Yep.
okay? You heard my argument. I'm saying go up to Buckley.
Yeah.
Include me in.
What's the point? Why?
Well, maybe I might want to open up a restaurant.
Really?
Sure, I got parking. I've got one of the bigger lots downtown. Why wouldn't I want to have the advantage of being able to do whatever I want, or when I get ready to sell it, somebody comes along and says, ooh, you're already zoned downtown.
Then we can do that thing that you said to do with the Masonic Hall and just give you that one spot.
Well, they don't like contract zoning.
But it's your lot.
That-
so which one?
Good try.
That particular photo doesn't show the new driveway you added.
No, it doesn't. No, it does not show my driveway now comes in the front.
In the front, drives around to the back.
Yeah.
The photo doesn't really.
Yeah,
You could, I mean, you could, you know, open your model train store or whatever. you want.
Exactly.
I don't know.
How do you get to your house?
Right now,
Yeah.
you know where the Friendship House is.
Yeah.
So my driveway's right
You have to
there.
go up past
Yeah.
it.
No,
You know,
it's right there. Right, it comes around like that. That building that you see there,
Yeah.
show her the section where, that's all gone. And we rebuilt and put a much bigger addition on. I could have a meeting room up there with no problem at all, wouldn't you say?
And your house is...
No, seriously, wouldn't you say?
Actually, you could have a conference. Good old wedding.
I could have a conference center there. That is correct.
So, moving on, your house is behind the Friendship House. What is the Friendship House?
For people that need special needs.
So it's an assisted living facility?
It is.
So technically, it's a business
It is.
that has frontage on Franklin Street already.
I'm not sure how
I
that
don't know if I would, it is a business, yes.
Yeah, that has
Yeah.
frontage on Franklin Street.
Yes, it does.
All right, very good. So if we drew a straight line right across there like Luke proposed, then that would fall completely in the degree of reasonableness.
And there goes my meeting, my conference center. God, I was wondering what I could do with
And
that.
my 93-year-old sister's in downtown district.
Oh, she is, hey, you don't want my wife coming down to this meeting.
Do we have any motion to send this to Luke's proposal to the town council?
I do have a question. I thought you were just going up to the church in your proposal, but you're going all the way to Central.
Why not?
Yes, all the way to Central.
Yeah,
I just did the straight line.
he went the
across
straight line and took the apartment building in too.
Maybe they'll do some with that apartment building. That'd be
As I
nice.
said before, once you start doing this, oh, that looks nice on that map. Look how good that looks.
Good, I hope it's profitable for the town, too.
I'm particularly fond of purple.
I would make a motion that we do as Luke had suggested on moving that line.
I second that.
You have concerns about that apartment house?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Well, just that
What's-
apartment house.
What's the motion?
The one on the corner of Franklin and Central that you said I included.
Oh,
The one
oh,
beside the
no, no,
church.
sorry, no, I don't have any.
Are we open to discussion because it's open for vote? I'd like to talk a little bit more if I could. I know you're hungry.
Do you own the clock? Go ahead. Go ahead.
What's the motion?
Now, I hope you're aware, you are obviously
Anybody
very
know what it is?
passionate about this.
You'd be surprised.
What
I
is
made a
it?
motion to accept what I had already, and send to the council what I proposed.
Yes.
It was seconded, and now it's discussion.
Yes, we're in discussion.
Okay, just the Masonic.
No,
No,
this stretch.
Whole stretch across the Central Street.
include your sister.
Let me go back to the satellite. Does it?
No.
Yeah, it does.
Where's
The
his
old
sister?
Methodist
His
church
sister's
and the apartment.
right down on
So we're
Franklin
going to
Street.
Street.
Yes.
So
right next to the
the
Masonic.
back line of the Masonic Hall.
She's on the side, this side of the
would come over
Masonic.
and
Yeah,
pick
she's
up
right next to the
back line of all
Masonic.
these properties
See
over
the,
Central
see the
Street.
farmhouse?
Yeah.
Can you see that from where you're sitting?
Yeah.
Is that with the Friendship House?
So this is the church here.
Yeah.
This is the Friendship House.
Mhm.
This is your sister.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this over here is that apartment building that's.
Well, actually, the
Really
one,
unfortunate.
well, I don't know, that property line up at the back is including another property on that street. There's a property line between my sister and that house on the hill.
Yeah, that's Lynn's
Across
house.
from,
Yeah, that's Lynn's house.
across from,
Yeah. Lynn's
Mr.
Sweet.
Peterson's.
Swift. Swift. I never say her last name.
So,
You saying there's another property line here that's not showing up?
yeah, there's a property, well, yeah, between my sister's house and that next house on the hill.
This one.
There's another property line between the two of them?
Go ahead up there and take a look, George.
I am not aware of
I've
that.
got William Storms at 121, and I've got Jeanette
Yeah,
Gordon
that's her
at
son, I think,
120.
that owns it.
What the heck's, well, I guess I'm not used to looking down at it from a roof.
Right, that's all. That's
Yeah.
her place.
Okay.
And you can see it's right next to the Masonic building.
Yeah.
And what the Masonic building wants to do is, I think, take part of her
Oh, yeah,
land
that's the
for parking.
garage I'm
Is-
looking at.
They do? Have they talked to her about that?
No, I think, isn't that how she found out? They talked to her about parking down there or something? How did Jen find out about it?
What's that?
Your sister, how did she find out about wanting to go in?
Oh, she probably saw it in the Enterprise or something.
Okay, I thought she had been approached. Never mind.
Is there, are they taxed differently? Like, for example, you know, the downtown
I
tax
believe that the
within
Masonic
village?
Hall currently is a non-profit.
No, but I mean, should it go into?
Downtown versus village. tax
So
difference?
Jeanette, will her taxes go up if we did this?
No.
Okay, that's, I don't want to change zoning and then have somebody who, you know, doubled their property taxes because they have a,
Because they're
Good
downtown.
they're
question.
commercial.
No,
Good
that's an
question.
excellent question, but no,
Okay.
taxes aren't based on the
So,
zone.
so my next question is, of course, being an abutter,
Yeah.
what would I have to do if I want to now approach and say I want it as a meeting house?
Go before the planning board.
I don't, no, I understand. So,
Contract zone.
I know what we have open.
I asked him that, why I didn't want to do contract zone.
We have a we have a motion, we
Yes,
have a
we do.
second.
And I'm done.
You're done with your discussion?
Well, I think
Thank you.
I
You're
think I
gonna-
pushed you as hard as I could.
You're gonna have to recuse yourself after this whole to-do. You are not gonna be able to participate in that vote based on that.
I think, you know, I agree with the whole conversation. I don't understand why it's being a zone change when it could be contract zoning. If you just
Absolutely.
want that one
100%.
spot. I mean,
100%.
It doesn't make sense to me.
And if
I
they
think
want to do
it's
something with the
in-
church, they come to us.
I think it's an anticipation of multiple things, right? You've got potentially, besides the Masonic Hall, you have 4 places, right? You have your sister's place. You have the Friendship House, which is a business. You have the church, which is kind of a business, and then you have this apartment space on the side. So you have really 3 businesses if you count the Masonic Hall and 2 residential. So why not, if you've got the church, which something needs to be done, and it opens it up to an opportunity for more development when you put that into this downtown. The few things that he's changed that you can now add there.
Which it could be.
Which it might not ever do that. It might
Generating more
stay.
revenue and tax base. Well,
Maybe
it
somebody
pays
will-
tax now, right?
Maybe somebody will turn it into apartments. Who knows? And it might not ever
How
affect
much, but
anything.
it's taxed.
One important question, and really seriously, is on the church, okay, the abutting property, if somebody did something with the church, could they then take a property that you feel might be torn down and turn it into a parking lot attached to that church with any problem?
They could do that anyways. It's been
That's-
suggested when,
So we lose value at that point, they turn it into a parking lot.
unfortunately, but
Yeah.
the town's done that too.
Well, you've
down
answered my
here.
question. I thank you for the
Yeah.
answer on that. Thank you. Because I can see that coming.
Tearing the church down,
No, well, the church is gonna, something's gonna happen to that.
tearing the
But I-
building down and
right,
turning
But they gotta
it.
have, they're gonna, there's some other things, but I don't wanna get
Whenever he
into it.
stops.
I'm done. Done. done, Steve.
We have a motion. We have a second to push this to the town council. Are we ready for a vote? Are we done with the discussion? All right. All in favor? Very good. Thank you, Luke.
How about the opposed?
2 opposed.
Oh, thank you.
They've been noted. 4 in
I
favor,
didn't get to raise my hand.
2 opposed.
He didn't
Actually, we have 1 opposed and 1 abstained. All right, limited public forum, an opportunity for the public to address the board on matters related to land use or planning in the town of Bucksport. Mr. Ashmore.
Been waiting patiently for
Yes.
an hour and a
Oh,
half.
I did
That
not.
was really interesting. One word for it.
Well, I don't have to sit here every time, so.
I didn't know Bruce was going to be speaking. I wouldn't have kept it going so long. Sorry, Bruce.
Oh, I'm patient.
I know you are.
Is there anybody here that didn't read the editorial in last week's paper?
I did not.
I did not.
It's redefining downtown, which, that's why I said this was interesting. It was in, if I can read this, because it's a premise to what I'm going to address. Earlier this month, the town's code enforcement officer told the planning board he has fielded literally dozens of inquiries from people who wanted to open a business here, only to find the site they had in mind comes with zoning entanglements that at the least would long delay their plans and in a number of cases make them impossible. We understand the need for good orderly zoning, but in some cases the rules here border on the ludicrous. Again, this is an editorial.
I was going to say, I didn't say that.
No, those were his.
No, those are his words talking about
Yeah.
your code.
And it was something that you addressed tonight is one of the things that was in here. For example, you can open types of businesses on one side of Route 1, but you can't put those same types on the other side of the highway. Also, the facades of businesses on the shoreland side have to appear residential. That's what you guys took care of some of this tonight. And to permit a small restaurant to open on the shoreland side would require extensive reviews, even though McDonald's sits but a few doors down from the town council, on the same side of the road as Hannaford's. And on the Franklin side is part of the village business, while the other side is solely restricted to residential. And you guys covered a lot of that today. What I'm here for, I have a business in Heritage Park, building number 90, Automotive Elegance. I'm a tenant of Newform Supply. We recently had McGuire's I almost said automotive, carpentry, but he was trying to do that. That's why we got him out. And we have kind of rearranged the way we're using the building. And I've got the larger part, and the owners have the smaller part that I was in before that they use for their storage. We've got about 5,000 square feet, but we've got about 500 square feet of beautiful reception, office, and waiting area that we can't put to use because of the zoning regulations out in the park. Ellsworth Nutrition had approached us about renting it. Multiple other businesses that we didn't really want to have in there, but we have a Bucksport resident that currently owns a business in Ellsworth, Bloom and Spa. It's Lindsay Figueroa. She's a resident of Bucksport, and she wants to move her business to Bucksport. We have the perfect physical place for her, but we can't do it because of zoning. So we have 5,000 square feet of building, and we wanted to use a small portion of it, 450 square feet, for her to use for her spa. But it's strictly forbidden to use a personal care business according to Appendix K,
The land use ordinance, yeah.
land use ordinance.
So it's the industrial park. So it was zoned as such for factories and that type of thing. One of the first buildings to go into the industrial park was Dean Hope Builders.
That's that building.
That's
That's the building I'm in.
And
Yeah.
so the front office and secretarial area and waiting room is what he's talking about. It is a beautiful space. And the ordinance is written that way because it's an industrial district, and
I guess if we have businesses that are trying to get into Bucksport and we have rules that are prohibiting it, that seems kind of silly. And for an industrial park that's been there for more years than I can count, when they were giving the land away and
The
couldn't build
building's
it
been
up.
there almost 20
Still
years.
give land away.
Right,
It's
and
a way to
and we're not
encourage
filling, I got a business, can I have some land?
I tried to get mine in the downtown, didn't go.
But you know,
You and I gotta talk
we
after.
gotta go to the industrial park. I guess my question is like, why, I mean, I see what originally maybe the thought was is industrial use only, but if we have businesses that, there's only so much space on Main Street and parking is horrendous. I've had business on Main Street and it's horrible.
Yeah, and the young lady that's trying to move in is an established business. She's like 10 years she's been doing
Yeah.
this. She has established clientele. She doesn't have to be on Main Street. She said actually she doesn't really want to.
Right.
Because she has set clientele that come to her and then go back out. And we've recently paved that entire area out there too and just made it into we're the best looking building in the industrial park. The best looking lot.
I'm not going to disagree.
And she's about to lose her lease. She's in Ellsworth, so it's essentially taking an established business out of Ellsworth and putting it in Bucksport
Question for you, Bruce. if
for a
you
resident of
don't mind.
Bucksport.
The reason she can't do it, specific. What is the specific reason she can't rent that piece?
Because in the zoning, personal care
The
has a
industry
big
that she's
X.
in.
Okay, so
With no footnotes, no,
personal care itself,
yes.
Personal care facilities are,
like a barber shop or anything like that.
right, I will read you the
Yeah.
definition, but
And her business is, say what her
A
business
spa.
is specifically.
She's a day spa.
It's a day spa.
Manicure, pedicures,
Right.
facials.
Hold that thought, I'm gonna
You know,
consult
people
that.
come in for an hour or two and then go back out.
a personal care service is a place of business that offers cosmetic treatment of hair, skin, or nails, artificial skin tanning, or designs and markings on the skin, barbershop, beauty salon, cosmetic office, electrologist, spa, tanning salon, or tattoo piercing shop. And it's listed under trade uses, and it's allowed in the downtown, the C1 and the C2, and Route 1 Shoreland, Route 15, Rural 1, Rural 2,
Yes.
and Village.
Did you just say it's allowed in the C2?
C2, but not the C3. You're in C3.
So it's allowed
Yeah,
everywhere
back
but
line.
everywhere but the industrial park?
Pretty much.
Yes.
It's not the intended.
Well, the personal care would, you're saying stop from buying or building a building there. I want to make sure I understand totally what it's stopping, because it doesn't want, it wants to have jobs, it wants to create whatever.
Correct. They
Okay.
don't want that
So-
to be a retail district. They want that to be an industrial district. So they don't want.
So you don't want anybody selling lobsters over there or fish over there? You just,
Not typically.
no, I'm
They
just,
want it to
I'm
be
just
more
trying to get a
crafts
flavor
or
for the
teaching
whole
people to
thing.
ride motorcycles or
When you say they want, the they was the planning board of 5 years ago?
I mean, that's the way it was zoned. That's the
20-some
industrial parks.
that would have been over
typically
20
are.
years ago.
Um,
Our building's been there, I think,
20
20
years ago,
years.
that would have been you?
What's that?
Would that have been you? 20
No,
years ago?
yeah, let's
See,
see.
and
Yeah,
I could
let's
understand that
second
if
thought.
that was somebody trying to use that as a primary use of a property.
That's where I was going,
Um,
yes.
But we only want to use like 10% of the structure, not even the property,
Yes,
as a sublet
yes.
Right.
to a person that, and once she gets closer to home, she works by herself right now, and it's large enough and spacious enough that she would like to bring a second person in, so it would create another job.
But that's not how zoning works. For instance, the Masonic Hall,
Yes.
if that was primarily housing and they wanted to sublease the basement for a wine bar, I
Mhm.
can't allow that. Well, I can now, maybe. But I couldn't allow,
Why'd you
That's
open
see,
that?
he wouldn't even
Right.
give me one.
but that's what I'm saying. I
Thanks,
couldn't
Paul.
allow a restaurant to go in there, even if it was a sublease, because while that may not be the primary use of that building,
Yes.
it's still a use that's not allowed in that zone, which is why we had to change
But
it.
we can, we can say,
We can change things,
we can
yeah.
say we want to change it, or at least make a recommendation to the town council to make
Correct.
the change, to allow this to go in.
Yeah.
Now we're back to contract.
Contract zoning.
Yeah, I like that idea right here. I mean, I see no reason why that person shouldn't be allowed to go into that building. I might not be happy if they were to buy a building and then start doing the whole thing.
Right.
But I can't see why it wouldn't be beneficial, especially to the property owner,
Absolutely.
to have that opportunity to rent that space.
So why not build it? Why can't they build it? Nothing's been built up there for,
Oh, no, I
What are you
right.
talking about?
Yeah, it's all full.
well, I mean,
We've been building stuff up there left and
Yeah,
right.
right,
we
but nothing
need
like-
more.
Yeah, in the
Not
last
like-
6 years, there's been 3 major
Yeah, we-
businesses.
Right, no,
built
no,
there.
no, no, no. What, I
Okay.
guess, let me,
And they all stay.
We'll back up.
Back up.
Back up.
Back
let me back up
Yeah.
that. I don't see why we can't bring, I'm for this. I think it's a good idea to allow businesses that are trying to stay there and stay in those businesses, and that would help you, right? To have another business come in there and to use up the space.
Sure.
Absolutely would help. I don't want to hurt Bruce or.
Right, so if
No.
you can, if, just because it's not a industry as in the clams or lobster or whatever else is going on up there, and motorcycle driving and plumbing and,
And zoning can be changed, absolutely, as we just showed.
yeah.
We changed R1 to allow different things. I mean, it can be changed, but
Well, this still has to go before the council.
it does. But I mean, zoning is in place for a reason. So, if what we had said tonight was we were going to take part of the Silver Lake Road and make it downtown, that wouldn't fly because you can't. You know what I'm saying?
What would the
So-
negative aspects
Right.
of a spa in this office scenario?
In his particular office, probably nothing. But if
Or
I change so that
extend
personal
that.
care use is allowed in the industrial park,
Yeah,
then Rich is going to have people come and saying, I want to have land so I can build a hair salon or whatnot, which
Okay.
is not what the intent of that is. The intent of the land is to bring in big businesses like Greenhead Lobster and tax revenue and jobs. That's the thinking.
So we could have a hand cream and everything else up there manufactured.
Manufactured, yes.
And they'd have to have a research lab, correct? Of course.
Maybe not there.
Okay, and so I'm
If you're
thinking that,
wondering if Greenhead Lobster could sell.
no, I'm wondering if Bruce has an opportunity here for a research lab, okay, that has to be tested, all right?
It wouldn't be the first one on the property.
You know what I'm saying?
Maine Maritime Academy had their fuel efficiency research lab in there for 7 years.
There you go.
Schools are
So,
allowed.
I'm only pointing out that maybe some wording might change the whole philosophy here.
I don't disagree with that. How can we,
Is she a teaching facility? Does she teach people to do this?
Yes, Bruce has been wanting to learn for a long time.
The only one that's gonna be, I would think would not benefit from that location is the person operating it, because there's no traffic in that area for
Right.
that kind of thing.
No.
You're saying she has her own clients, but.
She's a
I think she's
well-established
risking-
business in
Yeah, well, they'll-
she's
they'll-
established, she's looking for a location.
The-
She's not looking for someone driving by going, oh, I'll stop in and get a massage.
Yeah,
I've
she
had a couple
actually,
of
she
spots,
actually doesn't
but-
want that. That's what she likes about that location so much, because she's built her clientele. It is an established business.
And they will go to her.
And yes,
They will.
and it also opens it up so that
I
she
got
can pick up
clients
more
in the
clientele from the Belfast area,
Yes.
because she might lose some from, like, Gouldsboro, Hancock, when she moves out of Ellsworth to over
What are
here.
the potential pitfalls?
See?
If somebody
There you
might
go, you got
build, get a
two
free
birds with one
land
stone
and then
here.
like run a business for a year and then turn it into a mini mall? Or, you know what I mean?
I don't think you want to open up the industrial district to all sorts of this type of business.
Right,
That
and-
being said, one, the contract zone maybe, I don't know if the council would go for it, but I think contract zone makes more sense in a situation like this where you don't necessarily want to change that.
Before you
Whole
wasn't
district.
for it. How?
Yeah,
I'm
or
always for them.
Well, and if she leaves,
I know you are.
if she leaves down the road, she finds another space that's suitable for what
Yeah.
she wants. then you've opened up that one spot.
Not with a contract zone, because the
That's what I'm
contract
saying,
zone
right,
is
if you did-
limited to that one person.
If you did contract zone with this one particular person, you're allowing her, but you're not gonna be allowing if she leaves for another salon to come in, or
Right.
spa, or whatever.
Or whatever business.
Or as Dick said, or we said together, that as a primary business in the park.
Right.
I could see, absolutely, yes, because you don't want them carving out little teeny
You
pieces for
could even
this
go
and
to
that and the other
percent, you could
thing.
even say percentage of the property. You could narrow it down that way as well. So if they want to be protected from that going in.
Or if there was a footnote on the
Yes.
restriction for personal care as a primary business,
Like a
it's
square
restricted.
footage.
Yeah, there's
As
always.
or as a
protect
primary
that.
land use.
All right. In
Because
sum-
that would restrict it from being built, but it wouldn't stop somebody that has, like we do, we have a huge, because we're also, if we can't rent to her, if we can't get this arranged, then it's also excellent for a chiropractor, an LMT. That particular area is just set up for that. When you walk through the door, there's a wraparound reception, and a waiting area the size of this, and then a private office for the private care off to the side.
If I was leasing it before you were, I'd just live there. That'd be great.
Well,
Just
a
live
few
there,
people
have the
said I
garage
ought to
next
just
door.
move in,
Yeah,
but
just move in.
I damn near live there now, I don't want to.
All right, but in summary, though, there's an open office space that's great for this person's business. That would be very easy for them to just move in. The only thing holding them up is this particular scenario. What allows us to make this happen for them without opening up a can of worms that destroys the theory of the industrial park?
If you guys, obviously, if you guys are on board with it, I could take a contract zone, I could write something up and give it to Sue tomorrow and have the council look at it on the 14th. which is-
That'd be great.
coming right up.
That'd be great.
If we wanted to make a change to the ordinance, I would have to write something up and bring it to the next meeting. And if you guys liked what you saw, then we'd have to have a public hearing at the next meeting, basically what we're doing right now. Then it would have to go to the council.
So
So
it
you're
could be
talking
months before you could give him an answer.
at least 2-3 months.
Do the,
Contract zone.
yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
In this particular instance, I feel that this is a very
I can't promise you the
reasonable
council's gonna go for
scenario.
it, but we aren't out anything. If I have to bring it to the next meeting anyways, that's not till August, this would be on the 14th.
Which her lease is
If
almost
they
up,
say,
she's
no,
gonna
we
go
don't
somewhere
wanna do
else.
that, then the next step would be for me to
I mean,
look at a change for the ordinance at
I
the
think
next
it'd be
meeting.
good for the business.
typically though, when somebody brings you something, we get a month or something, we take some time to consider it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying no, I mean, this, we're at the tail end of a meeting, and,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, I really don't have a.
Well, that's where you put me.
It's true. You had to listen to me through the
I
whole
did that
day.
to you last month. You could have been first if I hadn't changed things around last month.
He told me he wanted the public forum at the end in case people about things we discussed. So I put it at the end.
And people were showing up late because of their work and so on and so forth. I thought it was more accommodating for the public.
Yeah, normally, because I normally work right up until 6:30, 7 o'clock. But
So,
Are there any questions that we have in terms of, the typical things that we do when we approve a request, and like traffic, safety,
it's an existing business, there's plenty of parking. I mean, I have no concerns, it's just not something I'm allowed to approve. in
chemicals.
that zone.
I suppose it's using various chemicals for,
her shop right
It's a spa, she's a
We're
massage
on
so
city
there's no-
sewer and water out in the industrial park, and where she is right now, she's right beside the, in that back row by where the courthouse is in Ellsworth, and they have the individual businesses down there near the police station,
Near the
on the
pyramids-
back side of the Main Street
pyramids,
buildings.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she was told that her owner is really looking at renovating that and turning it into a bed and breakfast or apartments or something. She doesn't have a date, it's not gonna go quick, but she's gonna lose her space she's in now. And the owner is a resident of Bucksport. Lives in Figueroa.
Bruce, on the square footage, did you make sure that just in case you overestimate just a little bit, in case there's some growth or whatever, if you're gonna do the contract zone, I'm just looking at what you're
Yes.
trying, okay, there, answer. I'm done.
Yes, her actual workspace she needs is about this big,
Mm-hmm.
and the space that we're renting her is the size of this whole thing,
Perfect.
that we would like to rent.
I understand.
I just think that that helps you guys. If there's spaces up there
I'll
that
push
aren't
for the
being,
contract zone,
Yeah.
I can't punish the council, go
There's-
for it, but
There's no other way to expedite this.
not to expedite it, no.
I just, I mean, the
It's just
zoning
fair.
change is gonna.
It's just-
If we had to do the ordinance change, I like your idea of using not as a primary, only as an accessory use.
and if she leaves, it goes back to the way it
Goes
was.
right away, it goes
Right.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That way
because
we don't get
then it's not interfering with the original intent of the park, which I also agree with, yes.
Spot.
It should
Same
be
exact
hopefully
thing.
large
Yes.
employers.
But
Gotcha.
open space, someone can use it, it's good for the owner of the property, it's good for them, it's just contract zone, specific accessory use,
I can't imagine why the council would have a problem with it.
who knows? Who knows?
Well, they like Luke's ideas.
Sometimes.
Well, I can be there to talk to them about
This
that.
thing's still
You need
squeaking.
to send me
Yes.
her information and stuff so that I can get it all written up and get it to Sue right away so she can get it
Okay.
on the 14th.
Don't you like the fact that George and I are on both sides?
I tell you what, I'm in there.
Okay, and I mean, perhaps as other businesses build up there and go out, it may open more opportunity for employment and business in the town, without messing with the original primary zoning of the park.
All right. Thank you, Bruce. Do we need to
If
take
there's
a,
growth and people are
Do
coming
we
from
need to take a
a
vote on
bigger
that,
city
or-
to come to our
There's
city, I'm all
anything to
about
vote
it.
on really
Yeah.
at this
No.
point. It was a good discussion and that's what we'll do.
Well, I think it would be nice if the council knew that we 100% back it. Or maybe not, I don't know, I'm just saying.
If you want to take a vote on how you feel about it, I can take that to the council.
But you're saying it's not necessary. I mean, you have the authority to do this.
I do, but backing never hurts.
I'm just saying.
Are
okay,
you all in favor of this?
okay.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
All in favor?
All right, that's enough for me to say
All
that
right.
you
Yeah,
unanimously in favor.
unanimously.
Yep.
Yes, and I think that's a little bit better to go. Bruce cleans up so well when he comes in here.
That's why I'm behind the podium.
Are you done?
All right, limited public forum is now closed. Discussion, none.
Thank you.
Adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Seconded. All in favor of adjournment?